So are we seeing a return of Cold War nuclear tensions with this kind of posturing? Yes and no. Yes, because we're hearing nuclear rhetoric being used in a context related to a major war in Europe. That will raise tensions. No, in that it is a war of words. It's information operations. Both the United States and Russia know that countries will get worried as soon as people start talking about nuclear weapons and nuclear programs. This is the 80th anniversary of the US dropping nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. And for those that are seeing the documentaries that are out there about it, for those that understand what happens on the ground, and I think both the leaders of the United States and Russia and other countries with nuclear weapons understand the implications of what a nuclear attack would be. And most countries in Europe are not prepared for this nuclear threat. We see some countries that lie on the periphery of Europe, in particular Switzerland, who have nuclear bunkers under many of their houses. We're seeing some of the Eastern European countries starting to reinstate the nuclear bunkers that were under all of their factories and many of their houses and in many of their towns and cities. We're seeing the same up in the Nordic states in many places. We're not seeing that in the western parts of Europe and certainly not in the UK. We don't have that mindset at the moment, which I think, given the increasing tensions, is a mistake, because as soon as the nuclear threats become real, starting to put this in place is too late. You need it there beforehand, because it will take many, many years and an awful lot of money to build up that capability again. Yeah, this is the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, the INF Treaty that Russia and the United States signed in 1987. What people forget is that Donald Trump in 2019, during his first presidency, had already withdrawn from it. The Russians remained part of it to give them a little bit of political credibility, but they've now made a statement to say they've withdrawn from it. It's a self-imposed set of limits not to develop shorter range or intermediate range ballistic missile capability with nuclear warheads. Vladimir Putin has been saying for months now that he's developed a new intermediate range missile capable of carrying nuclear warheads, and he's used it with conventional warheads in Ukraine. And of course, we've seen the recent rattling of the nuclear saber with Dmitry Medvedev, the Deputy Secretary of Russia's Security Council, threatening nuclear actions against the United States and personally attacking Donald Trump. Donald Trump coming back and saying, I'm moving 2 nuclear submarines closer to Russia. And now we've got this from Russia. It's a war of words. It's no more than that.
The nuclear submarines.
Oh yeah, well, we had to do that. We just have to be careful. And a threat was made and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
I think we'll hear more rattling this nuclear saber. It's something that Russia does. They've tried to distance themselves from what Medvedev has said. Medvedev, of course, he used to be Russia's president. He was prime minister, and now in the Security Council. You would expect him to have the ear of Vladimir Putin and his inner sanctum. You'd expect him to be part of the inner sanctum. He's seen as a bit of a maverick and is pushed slightly on the outside. But we'll see him rattling that saber a bit more. We'll see potentially some of the other members of the closer inner circle starting to use the nuclear word. And it'll just be a general increase in rhetoric. Western intelligence services are very focused on Russian nuclear forces, watching for any change in their readiness, their stance, where their warheads are held and everything else. The Oreshnik is a new intermediate range ballistic missile that the Russians have got. It's dangerous because it can carry conventional warheads, which it has done into Ukraine, or it can carry nuclear warheads. And the only way you can tell the difference if you haven't been watching the outloading of nuclear warheads, you're not watching that very closely, is whenever the missile explodes. So it's a ballistic missile. It goes up very high onto the edge of space and then comes down in a ballistic trajectory several times the speed of sound, and is very difficult, therefore, for anything that the Ukrainians have got or that we've got to shoot it down before it lands. The US Patriot anti-aircraft missiles are the ones that have got the ability to intercept ballistic missiles, which is why there's so much importance being put to them and importance being put to supplying those to Ukraine. Why is the Oreshnik so important? It's because it's something that Vladimir Putin has talked about personally. He calls it new. Whether it's new or not is debatable, but it has been used in Ukraine. An intermediate range ballistic missile is one that has got a range of between 3,000 and 5,500 kilometers. It's an arbitrary number that's been picked, but 5,500 kilometers will allow it to hit most of Europe and potentially into the United States, which is why people are getting worried. Above 5,500 kilometers, that's an intercontinental ballistic missile. These categories were set for the international treaties that were set to limit the numbers of missiles and warheads that countries had.